Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavey, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart and spiritual lifestyle curator Leo Rising Scott. And today we're talking about tantric orgies. Because why not? Let's get started. Himeros Live is brought to you by Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv is an erotic website with hundreds of videos that will do more than make you come. They'll enhance your experience of sex and sexuality as you'll discover new and exciting ways to increase pleasure, build connections, and so much more. All of our videos are co-created with a team of gay sex experts to give you the best gay sex of your life. Himeros.tv believes that pleasure is your birthright, and so we combine your favorite porn stars with everyday men to show the full spectrum of sexiness that is our community. For a limited time, get 3 months of Himeros.tv for just $49.95 at Himeros.tv/special. It is our harvest sale. That's HIMEROS.tv/special. Himeros.tv, it's like porn, but better. Hey guys!
Hi, David.
It feels like we've been away for like 3 years. Truly.
Yeah, and it seems like I haven't seen.
Some time.
Go ahead. What'd you say?
No, you were away for a really long time. It was sad for me.
Oh, well, we're back. I can't decide if it was like 10 days that we were gone or 10 years. So, anyway.
Well, you can judge it by my hair.
It looks good.
Your hair looks amazing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how are you, Leo Rising?
It feels like I haven't seen you, David, in like a long time either.
Oh, it feels like I saw you yesterday because I did.
I know.
Did you all just get back to where you need to be in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah. We did. I'm in Palm Springs. Finn was here until yesterday morning. And he came here like Saturday, like almost 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a lot of face-to-face time. Only one fight. We only had one fight.
We did.
And it was early on.
What was the fight?
I'll let Davey set that up.
It was about coffee.
It was over my morning coffee.
Yeah. I knew it was over food. I was like, this is a food fight.
Yeah. What was it? I think it was like the second day of our road trip. We had stayed in Sedona at like a really nice hotel, and we were all getting ready. And Finn texted me in the morning. He's like, "Hey, I think Matt, the director that we work with, is going to want Starbucks." And so I texted Matt, and he was like, "Nope, I'm good. I don't need Starbucks."
Wait. Oh, how it's shifted in your direction a little bit.
Finn was like, "Well, the Starbucks is only 1.5 miles away," and I'm like, "Does Matt, the director, want Starbucks, or does Finn Deerhart want Starbucks?" And yeah, so we got into a little. I was like, "Just tell me what you want. Like, tell me what you need." But how have I shifted it? That's
well. There's always a little tension because like unless you're a coffee drinker, you just won't like it won't. Like, and I actually personally don't like Starbucks all that much. Like I just know that I can get cold brew there, and I have this little thing where every day I drink cold brew, and almost every time we ever talk coffee,
no, it's a life philosophy that every day he drinks cold
it is like
brew.
and that's a very different thing than like hot coffee. It's just a very different thing, and I drink coffee. So on all these jobs, Davey's like, "No, but there's like ground, there's coffee." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not what I drink." And then he's like, "Oh, come on, it's just coffee." And like that's the friction that happens where I'm like, I mean, I can drink a cup of hot coffee, but I don't want to. And it's just a different thing. So
on these road trips, we're all called to make sacrifices and substituting some cold brew with hot brew coffee. I'm like, actually, is there really a big difference?
Me and Matt talked about this, and Matt was like, "Oh, but you know what you say to him?" He's like, "Oh, why should you use paper porn? There's porn everywhere." He's like, "He'll get that."
Now I totally get it. It makes total sense.
But I feel like cold brew is cold brew's a little more sustainable, Davey, because like you could have Now you know you can just like pre-make a batch of cold brew for Finn and bring it.
Well, and there's 10 people on a road trip, so maybe Finn knows that he needs cold brew every morning, so he makes sure he has a case of it with him instead of me having to get it.
Well, I actually made friends. And so the reason I had the face I had, I actually made friends with a cold brewery today called Banjo. So maybe Banjo can just sponsor Finn's trips from now.
Oh, that's amazing. Why? I love this.
Because I was like, I'm not into, I have my stuff. So I actually really respect hearing that, because it's an artist, you guys that are artists pilgrimage. And so I really respect that moment, Finn, because it's really important you have like the thing that helps tap you into your consciousness. Like I thought you were gonna have to say you had an argument because like you didn't compliment Davey's like cake or something fast enough.
No, but and to
that's
be
what
fair,
I would have assumed.
And to be fair, I will say this too. There was the artist part, and there's also 100% like I was anxious a lot, you know, like just being in the world, and like here's this thing that makes my day feel predictable in some kind of way, and I think that too. Like there's something about that, you know.
Yeah. So
but that was. I want to know. Did you cook for him?
Yeah,
totally.
I did.
Oh my God.
When Finn got here in Palm Springs, I made him. I knew that Finn wasn't going to want like a cake. And, you know, I like to make cakes. So
I want a cake so bad.
I bought 2 watermelons, one giant one and then one smaller one. And I carved the watermelon into like a 2-tier cake. And I covered it with whipped cream. So it was like a low carb or like a no sugar cake. Yeah. And I poured berries all over the top of it. So it looked like a wedding cake, but made out of watermelon. Which
I have to say, Davey is a kitchen witch. I didn't know this, but now I do. He also made some enchiladas that were amazing. It was really cool to be around you in that way, Davey, like seeing you like in the kitchen and doing your magic and like cooking. And I knew you liked food, but I didn't know like you were involved in it, like in your hands like that. So it was cool.
It's so beautiful. I'm so happy. This isn't your first time meeting though, right? Like y'all have hung out before.
No, we've hung out.
This is your first time?
We haven't.
No. We've hung out. We've hung out a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay, God. Okay, I'm so excited. This is so cute.
No, but I also know like that Finn. I know what Finn likes in terms of food, and so having those parameters, I was like, all right, well then I'm gonna make like enchiladas like within the parameters of what he would want to eat, which is kind of like a fun challenge to me because that's not how I would usually eat them. Like I would usually go for like whole.
How do you eat, Finn?
Just like lots of like just lean meat and vegetables and very little extra stuff or processed things.
Yeah, so it's not like he doesn't want to.
There's like a Google Doc as in there.
I'm like, Finn, you want to do this project? And he sends me this like 3-page rider of like all the things that all the food requirements.
Well,
no,
we do what we can.
We do what we can. So some takeaways from the road trip. I jotted down a few notes here. We did 10 videos. 10 videos.
In 2 weeks?
Yeah, well, it was really like, how many days was the road trip itself? 6 maybe?
6 on the road. Yeah.
We did like 2 days getting there and then 6 days of the actual project. We did 10 videos. I would say all of them were at least good. 3 of them I would say were like elevated to the level of like truly being great. We filmed our first video featuring 2 black models together. That was the short clip that I sent you. That's actually not in the video. That was one of the outtakes. Yeah, where they were voguing with each other. But the setup for that was these 2 black men out in the desert in front of this tent in camouflage. You bring to that moment like all these expectations that have been shaped by culture and society of like masculinity and how these men are going to interact, and then it totally gets subverted by these 2 men dancing together. They do this like really slow, fluid, sensual dance. It's very romantic. It's very connected. And like, I don't think that the director even like turned the camera off. Like the entire, he just kept going. And sometimes you have to say like, oh, do this, or let's take a break. And we just like something magic was happening when we were filming that. And actually, so we recorded afterwards a YouTube video as an interview. And I was asking the models about being black and gay porn. And one of the models, Leo Rising, wanted me to ask you a question. Can he was saying in the interview, because we were talking about like his experience in porn and how some people, can be dehumanizing in the way that they consume porn and the content that's created. And in the interview, he said that sometimes like he likes to go on Pornhub and he'll search for like Brazilian bottom gets gangbanged. And he was asking, he's like, is that really any different than someone searching for like a BBC video? And I said it feels different because there's a different context. Like there's a different history that's kind of like called into there. And I told him that I would ask you. So I'd love to know like what your take is, your hot take on that.
It comes up in my body for anyone that's like, what did he, body meaning my experience. So what I've witnessed, what I've been through, I could align closer to the different contexts due to if culturally, if it's a group of Brazilian men that are choosing and consenting to this experience of sharing intimacy with each other, then it's positive. Even if they're playing with aggression and sporty playfulness, like the idea is like keep layering in different aspects of masculinity as it's depicted because it's fantasy. But there is something to look in, and it's just going to be a personal look. Like you just look at yourself. There's nothing wrong with asking yourself, why are you into something? How did you come to be turned on by that? How do you come to be turned off by something? What does it mean to you? What's the history? If there are hysterics, definitely what is the history? And if there's elation, how can you apply that gently in your life in little ways? Like it's not having all the orgies in the world, right? All the gangbangs, but it's like, what is a gangbang? What is the history of it? Is it depicting like initiations that are sensitive in African American cultures that are emulated in Brazil sometimes? You know what I mean? Like in gang culture. So it's like, it just depends on where you're coming at with it. I would hope he doesn't feel any sense of shame while he does research that doesn't direct him to having the answer that makes him comfortable and more aware eventually. Does that make sense? So it's subjective because I understand the art behind it and I also understand the concern, but I wouldn't exactly put it next to BBC unless when he asked that question, does he mean like a white male looking at BBC, like fetishizing?
Yeah, like a white guy going into Pornhub typing like BBC gangbang versus he as a black guy searching for Brazilian bottom being gangbanged or something.
It's not quite the same. It sits close enough that I would self-investigate and just have the answer for myself. But I don't think it's close enough because the fetishization and abuse of Black, Caribbean, Brazilian bodies, and like anybody that's othered bodies, in some white circles is really psychologically damaging because the intent is really off. And so the act of gangbanging, if you're borrowing it from that lens, it becomes abusive. Where the idea of like group intimacy is not abusive.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
It was an interesting interview. One of the models, Dylan Diaz, he was saying, he was like, yeah, he's like BBC, he's like, I'm also not that. He's like, I don't have like a huge dick. And like what I bring to the table is something different. And he kept saying to us that the sex he has in his real life is so different from the sex that he's often asked to portray on camera. And so it was really fun for him to lean the sex that he usually has being romantic and sensual and sensitive. And when they had sex together, Dylan said to Andre, he was like, I want you to read my body. Like, I want you to get the cues that I'm giving you. And it was just like, I mean, it was truly like, it was an incredible connection. So
it was,
yeah, I'm excited for that.
I have to say a couple things. One, I do think he has a big dick. So like, there's this interesting how that comes up all the time. It's interesting. I'm like, oh my God.
Same. It was actually, he did have a big dick. Yeah.
Listen to this, like, spectrum and how we size ourselves up in that. And where does that really lead us? But secondly, I would investigate the meaning in it, because it is, I love what Leo Rising was saying about investigating for self, because, you know, in group, out group, like being in the group himself, that, you know, it's not the same as a white guy looking up and fetishizing, but there is something about like, but why that, and like what kind of power dynamics you're projecting onto that. And I think just in general, like having a sense of inquiry about, like, well, what about that? Like, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily bad or good, just like, what are you investing into this person, or divesting of yourself in the object, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Other takeaways?
Totally. Yeah, are we still fighting?
We're still fighting.
We're still fighting, apparently.
No, stop it.
Stop! Don't fight.
We're not
Don't
fighting.
fight, guys. Davey, I love you.
I love you too, and you can probably hear my wind chimes. Dominique is probably going to yell at me when she's editing this, but can you hear the wind chimes that Finn and his partner are making? Can you hear them?
I can't.
Can you really?
And it was all him. Yeah, it wasn't me.
Oh, it was. Oh, well, I think of you both.
I don't hear shit. I tried.
I'll take a little video for you after. Other takeaways from the trip. We had so many wonderful stops on the road trip. Kanab, Utah. We were in Sedona, Arizona. However, I will say Bullhead City, Arizona is
oh my god, the end of the world.
My personal hell. Arizona, beautiful state. What?
Is that a Von Dutch hat?
It is.
I'm such a label whore. Can you turn it around? I got very excited. I saw like the stitching for 2 seconds. I love Finn, dear heart.
Oh Lord, thank you. I got it at a vintage store.
I also really care.
It was the everyday road trip hat.
Oh.
Anyway,
how was Utah?
Getting back on track. Utah, beautiful. Bullhead City, Arizona is probably the closest thing on earth to my hell. It's like casinos, strip malls. Like, I mean, we stayed at a Days Inn. I went for a morning run, got chased by not one, but 2 dogs, one of whom was like biting at my feet as I was like running down the street.
Yeah.
I love that we made it a road trip, but in hindsight, it was also totally unnecessary that it was this road trip, because we had this grand vision for like this journey that we were going to take across country and convey that in the videos. And then, you know, it became a little bit unrealistic to do it at that scale during the pandemic. So things kind of got pared down. And then it really just became us filming 10 videos in all these different places. But really, like, we could have just stayed in Utah for the full project and like kind of settled into one little location. It wasn't necessary for the storytelling for us to travel, but it was still kind of a fun adventure. Say that.
I hear you, but you don't know the next time you'll really be traveling. You don't know. The pandemic has really curated this nice curiosity of we don't know. And I want to invite you both to trust, and everyone who participated to trust that like going across America is a rite of passage for the American. And gay males, it hasn't been the safest journey for us to be able to travel and be all the places that you've been and be liberated sexual beings. And so you don't know the ancestors of our cross-cultural intersectional tribe that just wanted you to just have that. So I would trust that. Because I think that, like what you said earlier, with Dylan Diaz, and what was the other model's name?
Andre Donovan. I'm really certain that other models, with Finn's support and your support there and the whole crew support, said similar things about reading each other's bodies. Like I don't know a network of intimacy entertainment that is having that conversation so publicly or sharing that that's what their models are going through. And whether you got to interact with like, you know, a random waitress or like a gas guy and like tell them like, hey, watch Himeros, whether you did or not, the essence of that sort of affection and closeness is spread across the country now. Like, it's not just like ratchet, and there's nothing wrong with ratchet porn, but it's not just that. It's like, you know, there's like a love, you're like a hippie love bus that just went across the country. Like,
True.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Finn was like wearing his Daisy Dukes in these like small town,
No one sent me that photo. Where's that photo, Finn?
And remember the guy in the Trump hat that was like, "What are y'all doing out here?"
Yeah, it's like getting totally at the deli counter. I got to like talk to a Trump supporter. It was a little bizarre, but like we had good eye contact, and like he was there with me.
Yeah. And we filmed a video where we had, I think we've mentioned this before, political party bottom, where it was a guy in a MAGA hat that ends up like getting fucked in the scene. And it's not so much it is a political statement, but it's also about the people who protest the loudest sometimes against us as LGBT people are often struggling with those feelings themselves. And there's a moment in the film where his hat falls off and he just surrenders into the like gay bottom bitch party whore that he is, and like kind of blossoms as this butterfly. And maybe some of that stuff wouldn't have felt the way it did had we not gone through the experiences that we did.
Truth.
Moreover, I stayed in Oprah's hotel room in Holbrook, Arizona. Literally the room that she entered.
Could you feel her?
Oh, her and Gail. I could feel both. Yeah, it was at a little road stop hotel that we had booked for the night. If you've ever seen Oprah and Gail's road trip that they have, which is like iconic, it's really hard to find because I think she's had it removed from like every digital platform in the world. It kind of shows her true colors, and I think at moments that like. But she walks into this hotel room and it's shaped like a teepee, and it's this like Route 66 attraction. And she walks into it and she goes, "Nope, I'm not staying here." And she goes, "I'll tell you why. There's no window." And so when we checked into the hotel, I said to the lady, I said something about, I didn't get Oprah's room. And she's like, "I'll tell you what." She's like, "Here's the key. You got Oprah's room." So I slept in the room, and we actually filmed sex. We filmed a gay sex scene in that room. So
yeah.
Oprah helped elevate it.
It was great. Yeah. I love actually being in, was it Holbrook? Yeah. We also did one out on a dirt road by some train tracks. It was really cool, in an old truck that ended up breaking down actually, and we had to call the owner to come get the truck. But that was it was just rather, there's a lot of moments on there that I felt like were like, for me and all the content that I've been involved in, even with the challenges, I felt like were some highlight moments of the entire time that I've been involved with Himeros. It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That truck was really, really beautiful. It was like a 1982 pickup truck, and we had Andre and Jack were like in vintage baseball uniforms, like coming back from a game, being all broy, and then they have this like really sweet sex like in the pickup truck while there's like trains going by in the background. Like it's really, I mean, it was really beautiful stuff that we filmed.
Yeah, and for a lot of it, Jack was backlit by the sun as it was starting to kind of get lower in the sky, and so there's like lots of this bright light behind them. It was so pretty, and it was coming through his hair. Like his hair is like really light blonde, and it was like kind of like sparkling, and it was cool. And then the light was on Andre's face. It was just really beautiful. Yeah.
Did you have a favorite moment, Finn?
I have to say, I think watching Andre and Dylan in the base camp thing was probably a highlight for me of all time because I felt like it was so special, and I don't think it could be recaptured in that way again. It was improvisational, and we just kind of worked it up on the spot. Like the whole idea about them dancing was something that me and Matt like workshopped in the car on the way there. And then once we got there, they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll do that." And we knew that Andre has a dance background, but we just didn't know like what was going to happen. And it was so quiet just watching them because they weren't speaking; they were just moving and communicating. Like it was like ecstatic dance, like communicating with their bodies, and it was so beautiful. Like it was like they found each other, and they went from that point forward. And I think that's why Matt didn't turn off the camera. He was like, "Don't say a word, just fucking watch, like just be with them." And it was really gorgeous. I felt like it was a special thing to be able to witness. And yeah, if we'd had to be like, stop, okay, go again. Like, I just feel like it would have like, I don't know.
And it was in
lost its intimacy.
a special place. Like it had these red cliffs that looked like the Grand Canyon behind the tent. Like it was just this really beautiful container. And also when Finn was like, yeah, they're gonna dance, I was like, okay. Like I'm not in my head, I was like not like putting together like how that's gonna work for the video. And then as soon as they started to move, I was just like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I get it. And also credit where credit is due. Like Leo Rising, we wouldn't have done that particular video had you not like expressed the need for us to have content that featured two Black models together. Like you really, through the work that you did with us and continue to do with us, like put that on the radar for me. So what is like both my favorite moment of the trip and Finn's like wouldn't have happened had you not worked with us on that. So thank you.
I'm just happy that there was that balance of the trope of hypermasculine Black male and then the freedom of them to dance, which is like a lot of, there's going to be a group of queer, bi, gay Black men who will see that and be like, oh, I enlisted in the army because it was the only way out of my town. But when they came back, like they are fabulous. You know what I mean? Of like, they are movers, they are fluid. Fluidity doesn't need to exist in one form. So I think that's really cool that after the elation of sex, they decided to dance. Like that's very healing to me.
It was actually the foreplay. Like it was
oh my gosh. That's, okay.
Yeah. They walk up to each other and they're like, you know, they're like really stiff and like in character and they're just like staring at each other, like masculine, you know, back upright. And then they both just start laughing and just like let it all out.
Like come together. And it was so slow and everything was just like, it's like they were in like honey or something, the way they were moving. And they didn't say any words for like 10 or 15 minutes. It was just like movement and silence. And the tent was like kind of flapping in the wind a little bit. And there was like a helicopter that went by overhead. And like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, you could just hear it for miles because it was way, way out in the boondocks. So it was just amazing.
Yeah, it was an incredible trip. So that content, I think the first video is the video in the truck, and that's going to come out in September. So that will come out next month, I think mid to late September. And you'll see the videos kind of released throughout the next year and a half. So lots of
well done, siblings. Well done.
Thank you. So let's talk about this week's video, which is titled Tantric Orgy. This features the men of Easton Mountain. You can watch a free preview on Himeros.tv. So the video opens with 8 men, all blindfolded, kind of like puppy piling on the floor, I guess. And the men are from different backgrounds, ages, shapes, sizes. I think the ages are probably like 20s to 70s. And they're breathing together and touching each other and then sucking each other, rolling around, eventually sucking dick, jerking off together. We have a comment from a Himeros.tv member that I want to read. One of our favorite commentators, Perky. Awesome range of ages, body types, ethnicities, genitalia, and sexual activities. The session pulsates, and the photography makes art of it all. A powerful, embracing attitude to so much of the fake and faked porn that's out there, if indeed this is porn. Once again, a Himeros.tv video poses that challenging question. So I think there's two things that jumped out of this video for me in watching it and also being there. And the first is that it just felt like real sex. The bodies feel like real bodies. The dicks are like at real levels of hardness, which is to say that some of them aren't hard at all. They have sex in a way that feels real. They don't fuck, which I also like. It's a lot of exploring other ways of connection. And this actually came up during our road trip. I'd say probably, Finn, what do you think? Maybe like 6 of the 10 videos had fucking, half the videos, something like that.
Maybe half. Yeah, it's hard to, I can't in this moment recall accurately, but yeah.
At least 3 or 4 of them didn't.
Right.
And as soon as there's going to be fucking like on a porn set, even like a really connected porn set, a really supportive porn set, and we talked about this, Finn, like it kind of changes things because it's such a demanding like act to be fucked. And the bottom doesn't eat because he wants to be clean on camera. There's like a whole process of douching and getting ready, made a little bit easier by a shower enema, which we did travel with. Shout out to the shower enema. But the top gets nervous about being hard and then takes Viagra or like a dick injection to be hard. And it just creates this like tightness or this like anxiety, this anxiousness. And when the fucking is happening, like the bottom is worried about staying clean. Like, am I going to make a mess in front of everyone and be really embarrassed? And like sometimes it's fun and hot, but like it's really hard to stay like present, I think, in the pleasure when fucking is like a requirement for a scene. So it's frustrating for me as a producer that that for gay men, and I don't know if this is just an assumption on I think this is like, I think there's a lot of gay men who have this expectation of anal penetration in porn. That if the guys don't fuck, it's somehow like the video doesn't count. It's like the guys need to fuck, they need to come, and the dicks need to be hard. That's like the holy trinity of like people's expectations around gay porn, which we try to subvert through the content that we create. But like those are the big three. And to accommodate those, there are things like, you know, dick injections and fake cum. And like, in other words, the porn is made more fake in order to meet these requirements or expectations that gay men have. And what I also hear from gay men is, I want something that feels very real. And what I want to say is like, well, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't have this expectation of rock hard dicks, fucking and always calm, and also something that's going to be real and authentic for the models. What's real and authentic may not meet those requirements. Real is soft dicks. Real is having a good time, but not fucking. Real is not always having an ejaculation. Yeah. So I'm curious for you guys, like what, like when you watch gay porn, like, and it's not like a judgment on my, because I enjoy like watching guys come and watching guys fuck, but like, what are your requirements to enjoy a scene when you're watching gay porn? Like, what do you want to see? Do you care about the fucking? Do you care about the cum? Do you care about the hard cocks? Finn, I'll start with you. It looks like you have something to say.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about everything you're saying, and in general, I think the reason it's an issue is because it introduces like unexamined scripts, you know, like it's like kind of like when you think about gender, it's like, oh, men are like this and ladies are like that. And then so guys will do that without even thinking about it, like tops do this and bottoms do this. And there's like all these different, you know, ways that we divide up and divvy up qualities of self and touch and presence. And that, I think that's the issue. And so it can be very hot to fuck and watch that. I love watching guys get fucked, but I don't like to watch guys get fucked in a way that seems like programmatic or like formulaic. I don't enjoy that at all. So I don't typically watch a lot of porn. If I'm in the mood for that, I do look for something that's not like an activity as much, but more like a connection between the guys. So if I see something, like one thing that I can't tolerate to watch is like just like real heavily polished like studio porn where everyone looks like buffed and waxed and they're just doing this thing and like making sounds that could be anybody and everybody. I don't enjoy that because it's just like, who are they really and what do they really want? It's impossible to tell because these guys are just kind of like robots in the moment for me. But I look for specific kinds of interactions with guys. It might be, I listen for sounds, you know, like if a guy's saying stuff that sounds like it's like him, that really turns me on. Like real, yeah. If he's like just running his mouth and saying like real kinky stuff that's like unique to this person, I'm like, oh, that is not like a, you know, run of the mill dirty mouth. Like that's like this guy's inner dialogue. And then I get really turned on because it gives me a sense of permission to like let myself feel that too.
Like that guy's being vulnerable and like authentic.
Yeah. I'm like, oh wow, tell me more. I got, you know.
Yeah, Leo Rising. What is it that you look for in porn?
How Finn just articulated that is, I just want to sponge all of it. I did like a soul searching recalibrating of myself when it relates to self pleasure and porn around um, around the intersection journey of ending my 5-year relationship and still being the spiritual lifestyle evolving coach and yoga teacher and meditation leader. Because in that community, it's very much like you can't watch those things, you can't do these things. It's so bad. So it was like, all right, well then I won't do it. But then you have ridiculously lonely nights, and you just be like, let me flap. Like I'm just gonna kill it. And I can go really long periods of time in a relationship or out of a relationship not requiring ejaculation. It doesn't. I didn't even know that was a spiritual practice until someone asked me. They were like, "Oh, have you heard of brahmacharya?" And I was like, "No, what's that?" And then they explained it, right? But I would honestly, I just want to back up what Finn said, because what I look for in any intimacy footage is if I were to, because I manifest very quickly, if I were to allow that into my mind with my asana reprojecting it out into the world, could I attract that healthily? And would it drain me to participate in it? Or, because if it's going to drain me in, if I come and I'm exhausted, that means in real life that would be really toxic for me. And so that's how I pick. I'm not going to like, I don't pick all of my movies or my TV shows or my books that way, but I definitely pick my relationships that way. So tone of voice, really important. Participation in warming someone up, important. Because I'm not very physically sexual. I actually have to be kind of warmed up. So I look for that when I watch anything. Like, do they care about each other enough to kind of get the mood set and also acknowledge where they settle, like not push it over into dramatic fucking. Everyone always wants to fuck, and I'm like, but why? It's so much work. Mm-hmm. And it means so much to some people. Like to me, I thought I could get pregnant when I was a child. So the idea of intercourse, I was like, I don't want to be a teen mom. And anatomy says another thing, but in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna, if I could get someone pregnant. So now I think about what are the pregnant thoughts? Like, what are we co-creating if I see you for one night? Like, what do I get the next day? What comes out of that?
We had some of the videos were done with the milking coach, who he does a process of it. He the difference between milking and jerking off, I'm probably not gonna get this 100% right, is that like jerking off is about coming. And milking is about this journey with like pleasure, and like the journey itself is like the destination. Like it's the experience of being milked, to really surrender and settle into that. And when I'm consuming porn, I think it also kind of depends on what my intention is. Like there's times where I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so horny. I just need to like, I don't know what to do with the sexual energy. I can't like integrate this into my being. I just need to like get it out quickly. And so if I'm like jerking off to ejaculate, the porn that I consume is a lot different. It's just like that nasty, foul, like very sketchy porn. If I'm looking to really enjoy the process and like really pleasure myself, the porn that I consume is a very different flavor. So it kind of changes for me, like depending on what my like relationship is with the content, or what my intention is with my whatever it is that I'm doing. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And I think that like fucking is amazing, and it means different things to everybody, and there's, I think, seasons for it, right? Like sometimes it's like really heavily sought after in my own experience, and sometimes there would be a lot of instances that I don't really want to fuck or get fucked, but I do want to do other things. But it's kind of emotional based, like what's coming up in me.
Commenter Joe says, excellent, very sensual, a fantasy come to life. I would have loved to seen more anal incorporated into it.
Well, I did actually on the way home yesterday driving, I did get fucked twice in the car on the way home.
How?
Well, once was in once was in a parking lot, and once was in an orchard around like the Central Valley, and we like pulled into an orchard and parked the car on an old dirt road.
Wow, your sex life, I have to say, like
it comes and goes, brother. It's sometimes it's not. Well,
it's coming lately. It's coming lately. All right. Another comment. Beautiful presentation, believably real. The part of Tantra often dodged in the current excitement and commercialization of it is the element of transgressiveness, particularly in the breaking of social and personal constraints of natural attraction. Tantra is not being necessarily with a partner of choice, but sometimes the opposite, having men of all ages be blind to personal particularities, but openly expressing tender affection anonymously is right on point. I hope there will be sequels. It would be wonderful to see such a video that included more men of color, men with obvious disabilities, men who don't fit the hot guy or hot daddy profile at all. This video certainly goes in that direction. So that's another thing that kind of jumps out at me is the guys that are playing with the other guys, they're blindfolded, and it's pairings that you might not necessarily expect to see, like a 20-something-year-old playing with a 70-something-year-old. And one of the questions that we asked participants in this group was, and I'd love to see if how this question lands with both of you. I don't remember exactly how it was phrased, but it was something like, have you ever hooked up with someone who maybe wasn't like your typical like so-called type, but totally had like an amazing connection or like super hot sex as a result, and maybe like surprised yourself a little bit? Yeah.
Yes, I've had better sex often with people that weren't quote unquote types.
In Leo rising.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having a type is more about the projector, not the object. It's more about like, under these circumstances, I feel safe to let go.
Mm-hmm.
We all do that on some level. Everybody. It's like how we order our world, but it's more about the one seeing, not the one being seen.
Or if I can get a guy that looks like this, then
I'm okay. Yeah, then I'm okay. Then I deserve worthiness. Then I can tolerate whatever. Like, yeah.
Last year when I was in Palm Springs, I hooked up with this daddy type, and he was, I think, in his like late 40s, maybe a little bit older. And a lot of guys that I typically hook up with are younger than me, and he was quite a bit older, and I almost didn't do it. I almost kind of backed out last minute. But I mean, much like what we were discussing with Dylan and Andre, like I felt like he was so tuned into my body, like he read my body, we connected, like he had all this experience that he brought to the table. So like he was tender, and like it was really, really, really pleasurable. Like it was really great. And it just makes you wonder like how much our so-called types like help or hinder us. And like maybe we can all learn a thing or two by like pushing against some of the narrow definitions of sexiness that we sometimes create for ourselves. And yeah, see that in this video.
Well, that's addressing capitalism and how it's overlay on gay entertainment, queer LGBTQT plus entertainment, because it's, I mean, we still barely position, center, and uplift our gay musicians and singers. We still have heterosexual women leading the charge on the voices of, I mean, and they're allies, and some are bisexual, or they reveal themselves to be later, but it's, you want that conversation is, it's a lot of optics, right? And there is a type of desirable man that overlays our whole what's popular nation, global entertainment nation. And so that it's just an overlay. So it's going to touch on everything. Mm-hmm. I think what that commenter, I'm glad that they were capable of letting you know and inspired to let you know how that scene opened them and what they would like to see more of, and the idea of sequels, of continuation, because real people connect to real people. And if you were just in drama school, you get paired with who you get paired with. Yeah, there's that thing where like, you know, you two look like a successful CW show, like looking at you two, right? So we're going to pair them up as often as we can to give them a chance. But Finn is open and can bond with everyone. You are open, you can bond with everyone. Give everyone a chance. Let the intimacy evolve, reshape itself. It's also an opportunity for deep re-education. of where we are alike and how we can contribute in that way.
In like kind of in real time, I'm working through some of this with we're launching a new website soon, and we have a new trailer that we're putting together.
Whoa.
And we're in the past in our marketing materials, we've always leaned very heavily into like the porn stars that people know and love, like really featuring, the Blake Mitchells and the Diego Sands of the world front and center in the videos. But whenever we upload a video like this, there's always this really great response from men saying like, oh, I want to see more people that look like me. I want to see more diversity of bodies. I want to see more different expressions of sexiness. And so, even though some of our content features everyday men, our marketing materials have always leaned more heavily in the porn star types. And so with this new video that's coming out, we're trying to maybe take a step more in the direction of, well, maybe there actually is this market for of gay men out there and bisexual men out there, and whoever wants to consume Himeros content, that maybe those everyday men don't need to play so much second fiddle to the porn stars, that we can really kind of bring that a little bit more front and center. And see what that does. We can also test it. We can cut 2 different versions of the trailer, one that features more everyday guys, and see how that lands.
No.
Don't
make a choice. Just make a choice.
Yeah.
I think it's challenging too whenever you're in any kind of work that you're challenging perception and status quo. Just because it does confront people. And that's why I often say, yes, we're making porn, but I look at it like art, because that's really wrapped up in syntax and definitions. What's the drive here? Yes, it's so much more layered than just let's put out a film so the director or the producer or the owner can make a lot of money. That's a different motivation, and the motivation in this is quite layered. And yes, I know you want to make money, but it is multi-layered and it challenges a lot of things. And so it takes time for people to be confronted, I think, and people do. They write in all the time in a way where it's this is landing in a certain way, and that it's impacting them positively, but it is a shifting that takes time too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any other thoughts about the video?
I love that it was blindfolded because of what you're describing. I mean, it takes away the object type mentality and just kind of puts one in a state of what am I feeling? What do I want? Maybe if someone's looking at a guy, you might, oh, I want you to fuck me, or based on a visual script again, versus oh, I'm in this moment where I can't see anything, I'm feeling, and then now maybe I'm in touch with my fear a little more, or I'm in touch a little bit more with my own boundaries, and do this, don't do that, based on how it feels, versus what one is trying to replicate, So I think it's really cool. I loved how they were all blindfolded, and I could just see this sea of sensation, and I wish I could hear the internal processes of these men as voiceovers almost, or as commentary, to hear what was going on for them as this is just unfolding and rolling around, and it's this pit of serpents, yeah.
That would have been cool to do a little debrief booth setup where each guy could talk for 10 minutes about their experience, and it would be a supplemental video, because you might not want to hear that in real time while you're watching it, but some sort of podcast that you could listen to afterwards with what the guy was experiencing.
Yeah, just kind of rolling in and out of each other and having their it'd be fascinating for me to hear that. But
any other thoughts about the video, Leo Rising?
The symbology of not knowing what's touching you, or how your touch, where your touch is going to go. So in any meta work, if you blindfold someone, they're not really working with the other 5 senses at all, unless you ask them to. Unless you have to remind the brain, hey, what's tasting? Hey, what are you smelling? You have to tell the brain to do that. If you blindfold someone, the thing that they do is they go to where the light is, and the light is the light of awareness. It's the light that you can't see, that you just know of. And so when I see things like this, I just think of, It's like going to a park and sitting on a bench and closing your eyes, and the birds are having sex with you. The way the breeze is going through the trees is having sex with you. The people walking by, that cat. Sometimes you hear the steps, sometimes you don't. You know, or if you do peek out, you see like these Central Park vibes. You're like, hey, but you just don't know what your effect is like when you take away, as Finn said earlier, your projections. And so I was returning to that as Finn was talking, but when you said Sea of Snakes, I was like, yeah, that's it. You're just in the belly of a really thermogenic touch. It's deeper. It's so much deeper. I am always, though, because of the age demographic, I was like, I wonder what texture was like. Or like I have what they call taco meat. So I was like, everyone would know it was me because like I have distinctive body hair. So
I saw that on your Instagram. Someone commented about like taco meat. I'm like,
I've never heard.
You're stalking my flirts on Instagram is what you're doing now.
They're public, girl. They were just right there for the world.
They were public.
What is that?
I have Goya taco meat. Oh no, we're not into Goya anymore. Who else makes taco meat?
Yeah, got some Goya.
I still don't understand.
Beyond.
What is taco meat?
You've never seen my taco meat?
I don't understand what it is.
It's chest hair, babe.
Why is it called taco meat?
Because it looks like ground beef. Because my hair curls in. Finn, tell him, look at this. My hair curls in.
Well, I see it. I've never heard it called taco meat before. I've never heard that.
I mean, it's a flirt.
Is this a Leo Rising thing, or is this like?
No, it might be a New York thing.
A New York thing, okay.
It might be an East Coast thing. It's not like.
Because your chest looks fuzzy to me. I wouldn't think taco meat. Like taco meat doesn't feel like soft or fuzzy. That's like a different consistency.
You can rub it in September and find out.
Okay.
We can do that. We'll blindfold you. We'll make that a YouTube video. Touch actual taco meat. Disinfect your hands, and then I'll put like canola oil on my chest, and we'll see if it feels the same.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
We're not doing that, guys. Don't get excited.
Don't do canola. It's bad for you.
We could use some coconut oil.
There you go.
Yeah.
Coconut oil doesn't make it through my pores. I don't actually believe coconut oil is an oil you should put on your skin.
Okay.
Or definitely not in your hair. I don't think it works. There's better oils.
Well, that is a topic for another podcast. Let's answer some questions. If you guys have any questions or comments, send them to Davey at daveywavey.tv, or you can call 612-470-5729. We haven't had any voicemails in the longest time. Actually, I haven't checked it, to be honest. But keep calling us. We'll get to them. All right. So question number 1. When bouncing around YouTube on Monday, I discovered your video about douching in the shower and became fascinated. So this is in reference to my shower enema video. Let's be. All right.
And I'm also enjoying envisioning this person is fascinated.
It is fascinating. Never gave this any thought before then. 48 hours later, the Amazon lady delivered my shiny new equipment, which I christened last night before going to bed alone. Holy moly. I think I have a new favorite pastime, LOL. Thanks for introducing me to the pleasure and efficiency of shower douching. I was surprised how quick and easy the process was. Why isn't everyone talking about this? This is my point exactly. Like, this doesn't need to be a secret. Like, the shower, it's not shower douching. Douching is the little ball with the point on the end of it. This is a shower enema. It's the hose attached to the shower. It is life-changing. I actually did it today just for fun, just to clean out and enjoy that region. Is it too much to ask, Leo Rising, if you brought your shower enema with you on your travels?
I bring it with me everywhere.
See, I love that.
That was the sweetest gift. That actually set off a precognitive knowing that I might be moving. Because the texture of the coil I had dreamed about a few days before, and then it happened, and then I forgot we even mentioned it. And so there were like all these little tags for me from Dream Space that let me know I was moving from Los Angeles, the undisclosed place. I'm in Georgia, to Georgia. And I was like, so that was the reason I had like I think I had a really big reaction to it, because I was like, Davey's a witch. Oh,
All
I
the
knew
many
Finn was a
ways,
witch.
all the many
dear
ways that shower douching can enhance one's life.
I wouldn't. I did try to plug it in at a hotel that turned out to be a motel, and I stopped because it was so grainy and dirty.
Mhm.
That's a no. So
Yeah.
you have to really pick your spots well.
Right. And you need to travel with a wrench. That's the other piece of this, because some of the shower heads are screwed on very tightly. So like on our road trip, we had a shower enema. And so I would go into the hotel room of whoever it was that was bottoming and wrench off the shower head and attach the shower enema.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
That's awesome.
All the behind the scene moments. Yeah.
That's great.
All right. Question number 2. I was hoping the fine men of Himeros Live could help me make sense of something that's been bugging me. I've always hated cum. I think it's disgusting. I've never had any interest in eating it or tasting it. Even pre-cum freaks me out. A few weeks ago, I'm adding the dramatization. A few weeks ago, I was hooking up with someone I hadn't shared my cum boundary with. Without saying anything, he blew a huge load into my mouth. There was no forewarning or anticipation that it was about to happen. I would certainly have removed my mouth from his dick before the ejaculation. The tricky part is that I actually didn't hate it. I actually found myself really turned on by it. Very turned on, actually. However, I still think I hate cum. But do I really? What's going on here?
Wow.
Yeah. I think
that's a complicated question.
It is a very interesting question.
I'm triggered. Well, not triggered, but my concern is someone ejaculating in his, like finishing in his mouth and not communicating that with him bothers me.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like that just is like a whole abuse moment that like I'd rather address that than his like not liking semen, because what people eat, they could be acidic. Like there's reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
And also, when someone's about to come, like usually there are like it's a little weird, because usually you kind of know it's like getting to that point, even if they don't say like I'm about to come. The breathing, the noise, like the buildup, you kind of really, you've been in situations where it's just happened.
Finn, you take this.
I haven't been in a situation where I didn't know it was going to happen that I can recall. Mm-hmm. I just think I will say this. Hearing him say, I hate it. It freaks me out. There's certain key phrases that I'm interested in. You know, I'm like, well, it's one thing to not eroticize it. Maybe it's not your thing, but to have these visceral reactions against it means something to me. And so if you're interested in exploring that, there is something there. And I don't have any frame of reference to start on that, but I think it could be a thread to pull on and to think about, what are these reactions? This is my body. I mean, if I'm going to do this act, you know, that's part of the act. And maybe you don't, I don't know, maybe you don't want to suck dick as much as you think you do, or maybe there's just all kinds of entry points to that discussion. But such a strong reaction makes me think that there's a story there to unravel and to think about. And you don't have to like come, you know, like.
But also like to have that much like wrapped up in it, that like maybe there is the story of like, oh, like cum is dirty and filthy, and like maybe part of why he surprised himself in liking it was it's like that. Like, because the transgressiveness of it, like, like he's just being this like filthy little like cum slut, and maybe he's been like pushing that part of himself away. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. And you know, maybe, you know, it kind of depends too. Like sometimes there are people that I want their cum, and sometimes I don't. Especially if like I don't know who this person was to you, but if there's no emotional connection, you know, cum might mean something to this person that doesn't, you know, that connection doesn't necessarily like embody the instance in which you would want it. I just don't, there's so many questions, but I would say investigate the reaction.
Yeah.
All right.
So step 1, do what Finn said, just investigating your own narrative. Step 2, don't let people just come in your mouth.
Yeah.
You should definitely, it's one thing to say what you don't like. Definitely communicate. Don't surprise me either. Yeah.
It is one of those things. Like I enjoy spitting in someone's mouth. I never spit in someone's mouth unless like I've asked for that. You know, like, is it okay if I do this? Like, you want me to spit in your mouth? Because that, like, someone could love it, someone could really like it, or they could punch you in the face.
Yeah.
I thought you said unless you fast for this, and I'm like, yeah, definitely be alkaline when you do that.
Right. Yeah, I thought you said that too. Like I fast from like it's like a holy act.
All right, I'm going to save question number 3 for next week when we're also discussing a video, Task Rabbit, which will be a lot of fun. Finn, where can people get more of you?
FinnDeerhart.com, FINNDEERHART.com.
And Leo Rising, where can people get more of you?
Please find me on Instagram at Leo Rising Yoga.
Awesome. And remember, oh, was there more? I'm sorry.
No, I was like, I'm not spelling it.
And remember, you can join Himeros.tv and get 3 months for just $49.95 at Himeros.tv/special. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.